Hello, everyone. My name is Peter Sima, and I would like to welcome you on today's webinar. And the topic of today's webinar will be Goodstack verification process. The reason why we chose this topic is that we've seen a lot of questions in various online portals around this topic. People who were trying to get into Google for nonprofits, were trying to get Google Ad grants, they first need to pass Google Goodstack verification. And unfortunately, many organizations seem to have issues with this. And since we have a person on our team who's Veronica, who's also with us on this call, we thought this would be a good opportunity to review the most common issues and reasons why organizations get stuck on this step. So let's move ahead. Let's look at the content of today's webinar. In terms of timing, it will take approximately 60 minutes. During the 60 minutes, we will look at three things. Initially, we'll give you an overview of what Goodstack is, what are the benefits of this platform, what are the requirements you need to pass to get in, and we'll then also look at the different steps of the application process. In the second part of this presentation, we'll take a look into those common rejection reasons, why are the applications disapproved or rejected, and how to fix those problems. And then we'll give you practical solutions. Especially if you're stuck, if you do not know how to proceed with your specific Goodstack issue, we'll try to address it and give you some clues on how to fix that. I'd like to first introduce myself. I'm Peter Sima, and I'm a founder and consultant at Box Digital. Besides that, for past 7 years, I've been working as a Google trainer. So I've been also heavily involved in getting nonprofits into this program. And I've been working with Google Ad grants since approximately 2013. Started off by an agency, worked later on in a corporation, and now I manage my own agency where we help the nonprofits get into the program and use Google Ad grants to the maximum possible extent. And now I'll let Veronica introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Veronica Zgodava. I'm a consultant and nonprofit verification advisor. So I'm helping all those nonprofit and charitable organizations who are struggling to get through the process. My experience is in international operations and compliance, and I have formerly led the nonprofit verification team at Goodstack. So I have a hands-on experience, and I can provide the best practices.
Thank you, Veronica, for the intro, and I believe you can take it from now on and give us an overview of Goodstack.
Absolutely. So Goodstack, some of you might be familiar, some of you maybe not. So formerly Percent, it's innovative tech for good company based in UK, London, but operating internationally. Its main purpose is all working with key technological companies, key big providers, whether it's corporations, whether it's big logos. And the aim is to help you guys, so all of the nonprofits, all of the charitable organizations who need help, whether it's a monetary or technological software or products. Goodstack covers all of that. So you get access to their innovative technology tools, whether it's a CRM, Google for Nonprofit, Microsoft Solutions, all the tools that normally you would, as a consumer, would have to pay significant amount of funds. You can get a nonprofit offering which is heavily discounted. So that's one way, and you get access to that. And the other way is also access to fundraising opportunities, ability to get access to grants in front of donors, and any grant opportunities that come from large or corporate organizations. So all of these benefits, Goodstack is trying to be the one-stop shop for any nonprofit trying to raise awareness, trying to raise funds, or get access to latest technology.
I would just add one more thing here. We've already had another whole webinar on Goodstack where we discussed together with Veronica, what are the products you can get, how, and we basically, covered the basics of the platform already in another webinar. So the topic of today's webinar will be specifically the application issues. We'll not go into details. We just want to give you, those of you who are maybe not familiar with the platform, we just want to give you a high-level overview.
So in a little bit more detail, what kind of fundraising opportunities are we talking about? Well, there are different ways, right? We might be talking about large corporates, whether it's Airbnb, whether it's Microsoft or any of these organizations that might have budgets allocated, and we are talking in significant 6 to 7 figure budgets that can be deployed to organizations worldwide. It doesn't necessarily have to be local, and they will pick organizations that have been verified, they're in a good standing. So if you have a Goodstack account, if you have signed up, this is one of the benefits. There is no guarantee to be involved in any other product, but you are increasing your likelihood. Second of all, there is also employee giving programs. So employees of large corporations can have a benefit from an employer to donate part of their salary that can be matched by an employer to cause of their choice. Right? Or there could be different opportunity to raise funds, whether it's for one-off event, let's say a cancer run or fundraising opportunity, or whether it's just to support the organization as a whole. So that could be example of the fundraising. In terms of the technology companies, there is a whole suite of services that you can tap into. So depending on what your organization needs, you might want, again, a CRM, you might want Google for nonprofits to get access to the website, you might want LinkedIn, you want OpenAI to have access to some credits on AI and LLM solutions, or you might want invoicing software. So some examples of the brands are on the screen: Asana, Adobe, Google, LinkedIn, Monday, Atlassian, and many, many, many others. So Goodstack prides itself with building relationships with the largest companies and the largest offering. So yeah, absolutely recommend it. One of the things, it's free. There is no cost in signing up to Goodstack. In terms of, do you have to pay for any of these technological offerings? It solely depends on the customer and the provider. So some of the companies might want to maybe offer you a 50% discount if you qualify and meet the requirements, or offer it completely free. The purpose of today's call is mainly Google for nonprofits, so you get the product for free because that's Google's intention to give it to free. But some other companies maybe don't offer it completely free. They give maybe 75-50% discount. It's still heavily discounted. I just want to make it absolutely clear. Yeah. In terms of what makes you eligible, because after this call, you definitely want to sign up and look into Goodstack. One of the key criteria is definitely you need to have the correct legal registration. In terms of what it qualifies to be a nonprofit or charitable organization, it varies from country to country. There is, on a Goodstack website, there is a list, even per jurisdiction, per country. Do I meet the quality? I would strongly recommend everybody to look into that. If you are in the US, obviously it's 501c3 organization, and if you have this tax exemption, then you're fine, right? But if you, for some reason, fall under different tax exemption bracket, you might be excluded immediately by default because you do not meet this standard. Then it's not Goodstack or Google's or LinkedIn's fault. Unfortunately, those are criteria, and if you don't meet them, then you cannot proceed further. Again, the second requirement would be, is your business operating for the public benefit? Is it operating for non-for-profit basis? This is relatively self-explanatory. It will be checked by the compliance verification team on the application. And thirdly, you need to have a clean compliance record. Obviously, if there is any concern about sanctions, watch list, hate speech, or adverse media, this will significantly impact your application and most likely get denied. Majority of the nonprofit organizations will not fall into this category. I just want to make it absolutely explicitly clear that if you register as a 501(c)(3), but you support like terrorist operations or support war, that obviously that could be the reason for rejection. um,
Hopefully that's not going to be a case here.
yes, it's one of the like least likely. And the lastly, very important point is you need to have an authorized association with that organization, right? All of us can apply on behalf of Oxfam or Red Cross, right? But only those that are actually legitimately authorized to represent these organizations will be granted the application as a successful one. I think this is relatively self-explanatory, right? It avoids exploitation of legitimate applications, but there is nothing to worry about if you're applying on behalf of your organization. You just need to demonstrate that in a sufficient manner. Okay, I don't
And
think
that
anybody in the room will try to try to scam, but
my experience here, and by no means I've tried to scam or anything like that, but we are an agency, and sometimes our clients ask us to submit the application on their behalf, and the this requirement, the last one, that sometimes it's a problem because we obviously don't have an email address on the client's website, so we submit it from our own email, and it sometimes causes confusion. And I'll show some screenshots later on where we had to basically verify, or actually the person from the organization had to verify that we are actually applying on their behalf, and this is not some sort of scam, etc. And I know many organizations even submit their applications from Gmails or other anonymous email addresses like that, and this tends to cause problems. So,
which will
so
be
I,
discussed as one of the issues down below.
yeah, yeah.
It's a definitely not an easy pathway to go through, but it's not an immediate denial. So there is a way, as Peter says, but you might cross some hurdles to get it approved in the end. Over
All
to you.
right. Thank you, Veronica. I'll now share my recent experience, or our recent experience with Goodstack application that we submitted on behalf of our clients. And I have to tell you, there are two ways to actually go around this application, and it depends on what you're trying to achieve. If the only purpose and the only reason why you're submitting the application is to get access into Google for nonprofits, you do not have to go to Goodstack and do the application through Goodstack. There is a simpler way around that, and we would actually recommend that if your only intention is to get Google for nonprofits, you can just go straight into Google for nonprofits website. You hit sign in. You need to proceed via your email address, or you've already been signed in. And then Google shows you a screen like this where they basically tell you, there are 3 steps here. In the first step, you need to ask, or actually need to answer a few questions, which should take around 10 minutes. Then there's a verification through Goodstack, but the verification happens on the back end, right? So you do not have to go to Goodstack and do the application there. You can do the whole experience here within this process. And then everything's all right. If Goodstack verifies you, you get an email from Google for Nonprofits saying that you've been verified, and you can come back and you can just activate the products, which obviously Google Ad Grants is one of them, but there are more products to it. So again, if you only want to get Google for Nonprofits, my recommendation is to go to Google for Nonprofits, which is google.com/nonprofits. You sign in, then you see this screen, you hit begin, and it says Goodstack will verify your organization. You hit next again, and now there's a text box where you can put in the organization's name, organization number. This in the US is EIN number. In different countries, this could be a different number. So let's say I'm trying to apply on behalf of Goodwill. There are many Goodwills, but I'm gonna type in Goodwill, and now this shows me nonprofits are registered with, or they are in Goodstack's database. They do not need to have accounts, but Goodstack knows of them. Let's put it that way. And see, it says powered by Goodstack. So this is pulled in here through Goodstack. And then you if you see your organization in here, obviously you can see here the different Goodwills here. Let's say we're applying for this one. You hit next. If you can't find the organization in here, you need to click this one, and then there will be an additional step where they might require you to submit registration documents proving existence of your organization. But let's assume your organization is here. You select it, you hit
Important,
next.
sorry to disturb, important
Yeah, go
is
ahead.
to look at the address or look at the EIN, right? Because if you just select the first one on the screen, most likely that could cause one of the rejection issues. We will get to that a little bit later, but please be careful what you select.
That's correct. Make sure you select the proper one, and over here you just I'm just gonna make this up. Obviously, it's not the correct one, but you put in your website, you hit next, and then Google asks you to put in a mission statement, a category. Oftentimes we get questions like, which category should I choose? What if I choose the wrong category? There's no right or wrong answer here. Obviously, you should choose a category that's closest to what you actually do as an organization. But if you choose a different one, this should not be a rejection reason. And then there's also a subcategory. So let's say you do some legislative work, and then you select one of these. All right, and you put in a mission statement. I'm just gonna put in like test so that we see the next screen.
One thing, we will get to that a little bit later. So absolutely just selecting, it will be verified by the verification team. So do not worry even if you're not quite sure and you get it slightly wrong, it will get corrected. One of the things that, however, it's important to keep in mind, if you fall into categories that are not eligible for Google, unfortunately, you will be disqualified no matter what you do. Okay, so in terms of like, do I get it right or wrong? You don't have to worry about it, but it's very important to ensure that you meet the qualification criteria for Google in this particular instance.
And yeah, just to clarify that maybe a little bit more, we had a separate webinar about the Google for Nonprofits application, but basically the organizations that cannot access Google for Nonprofits program, they're governmental entities, and they're hospitals, and then there are schools. Okay, so these three are categories where that are not eligible for Google for Nonprofits. But outside of those three categories, if you select any other category, even other, it should not cause disapproval or anything like that. Okay, and on the next step, you put in first name, last name, job title, email. That will be the email that will be used for communication with Google, and that will be also the email that you use to log in into the account. And through this email, you'll then activate the products.
And
this
is the contact email used also for the verification side, what we discussed, right? So
correct. So it should not be Gmail, but it should be an email. I mean, now that we're applying for Goodwill, it should be your name at goodwill.com, right? The domain in the email should match the domain that you're actually submitting the application for. Okay, and then you would hit next, which I'm not gonna do because obviously this is just an example. And then you would basically get an email saying that the application has been received and that they will contact you in a few business days. And then on the back end, Goodstack will verify the application if you've submitted it from your email address, if the organization is legally all right, let's put it that way, then you should get approved. Okay, they will give you access to Google for Nonprofits, but will not give you access to all these other Goodstack products that we talked about just a few seconds ago. And if you want to get full access to Goodstack, if you want to get the different grants, different software solutions, and if you want to participate in corporate giving and things like that, you would need to do the application through Goodstack itself. And that's what we did recently for one of our clients, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. So to create Goodstack account, you would need to go to Goodstack's website, which looks like this. Again, you hit sign in, and there's same or similar experience, right? So there's a database of organizations here in the green box. You type in the name of the organization, which in this case is, again, Goodwill. You would hit search, and then down below you would see a list of those goodwills. You would either click the one that is correct, or if you can't find it, then you would hit I can't find my organization, and again you would need to submit additional documentation. Once you do that, you should get an email similar to this email, which basically says that your Google's partner Goodstack is sending emails to. And then there's this email address that you use during the application, and then there are two scenarios. So either Goodstack has all the information and the application will be approved, or Goodstack might need more info, which if that happens, and that's what happened in this particular case, there's another email that you'll get, which might look like this, where basically Goodstack says that Goodstack is helping Google review your application. You've reached out to this email, and we noticed that the owner of the organization or basically the email is not the email belonging to the organization, right? So if that happens, you need to verify the affiliation with your organization, and how it's done, how that is done is that Goodstack might reach out to the owner, to the email address registered under this organization, and this person needs to basically confirm via email that yes, this person who applied is valid, this is legit, and please move on with the application. The next step then, after this affiliation verification happens, is this one, where you basically get another email which says that we're working on processing your application. Verify your email. Yeah, you hit that button, and that basically means that the email is verified. If then the legal verification happens, and if the affiliation with the organization has been proven, then that's it, and the application is approved. That's what happened to us here. When the application is approved, you get an email like this, where you see the status, and then you get a congratulations, you've been verified email. It might happen that Goodstack might require more information, or the affiliation might not get approved so smoothly, etc., etc. And those are the situations that are difficult to solve without talking to Goodstack. And the Goodstack doesn't have a phone support or anything like that. There is a help center. So there is a way to find answers. There's an option to chat with Goodstack support via their AI chatbot, but it can't always help correctly. And those are the issues that we'll discuss now. And I'll give the word over to Veronica to tell us more about those issues and how to fix them.
Absolutely. So Goodstack, as discussed, a standalone product. If you want to sign up, absolutely, you will be able to track the applications to Google for Nonprofits, to LinkedIn, to all of the other products you sign up for. Keep an eye on your maybe fundraising or any donations that you received, right? So it's a good way to have. Again, it's free of charge, but it's separate from Google for Nonprofit application. So let's dive into a couple of issues that can come up, and hopefully we can help you prevent them. So I grouped them into three buckets, which I believe are probably the most relevant for the applicants. The first one is status. So a lot of organizations might think that they are falling under the criteria. They think they are operating not-for-profit. However, they do not meet the legal definition in its specific country. Okay, that was not meeting the 501c3 status in the US, for example. I will describe some of the situations in the next slide. But the second category would be eligibility. We briefly touched upon that when we went through the application. Again, Google does not support certain eligibility categories. This is by their choice. Goodstack or nobody else has nothing to do with it. So no matter how many times you try to reach out to the Goodstack support team, they can't do anything about it. If you're a school, you're not going to be accepted, right? If you apply for Canva product, different application eligibility criteria apply. Okay, so it's not one eligibility criteria for all of the products. No, every vendor, every provider has its own, and this also applies for the corporate giving, for the fundraising. Every program and every donation, whether it's a monetary or product, has its own different criteria. Okay, you might be eligible for one, you might not be eligible for the other one. We'll get into that. And lastly, it's any process issues, right? It can be the documentation, it can be user errors, it could be you don't understand the back and forth with Goodstack about verifying. They're trying to ask you something you don't know. Maybe the email gets lost in your spam. So, or you type something wrong on the application. So those will be the process ones. Let's dive into more details of them. So the first one is verifications. I touched upon it a few times, right? But if you do not have the correct legal status, unfortunately, that will be an immediate reason for rejection. Okay, you can try to appeal it. Unfortunately, for majority of the times, it will fail. For Google for Nonprofits, you must be 501c3. There are, however, few programs on a Goodstack offering that do support other types of organizations. They could be social impact, they could be educational organizations. Goodstack standalone does not just support 501c3s. Again, it has offering for schools. There is Canva schools for teachers, for students. There's offering, but that's specific for those type of organization. It's Canva. If you're trying to apply for Google, you must be 501c3. Again, you need to have the correct status. The best way is to get Goodstack account and then explore eligibilities and requirements of each individual program. So please read the fine print. In different countries, the different legal definition applies. Okay, so if you think, oh, it must be, I'm thinking I'm in. Let's say I'm in Canada and I'm a cooperative. Yes, I think I'm operating not for profit. Please verify, because there are chances you are not probably eligible for Google for Nonprofit program. Okay, so please check if you meet the legal status. Ineligible organization types, that we cover that's set by the partner, governments, hospitals, and schools. For Google
And
do not apply.
if I may just add one more thing here, because we do work with a number of educational organizations, and they qualify. They just cannot be schools. Sometimes schools have their own nonprofits, and they're perfectly fine. Just the school itself, if it's operating under a nonprofit, and the school itself is not eligible, but all those sister organizations, partner organizations, they might be eligible. And the same goes to health centers. FQHCs, federally qualified health centers, they're nonprofits, they're perfectly fine, right? So sometimes the line between being and not being approved is relatively fine. Sometimes we saw cases when the application got disapproved on the first time, then we reach back out and we explain the situation. We said this is a nonprofit operating next to this hospital or school or whatever that was, and then they said okay, then that's okay. Okay, so even if you're not sure, my recommendation is apply, go ahead. Worst case scenario, they'll say you're not eligible. You can discuss it with them. If it doesn't help, well, yes, you're not eligible, but the chances are that you will eventually get approved after you explain the situation to Google and or Goodstack support. Okay.
Best would be absolutely in those nuances. If you're confused, you can absolutely also reach out, because we know all about the nuances. Different nuances apply to Adobe. Different nuances apply to Google. So if you're stuck, but you feel like you are absolutely eligible, we can help you maybe untangle your situation, because it can be sometimes very frustrating to go through the process on your own when you don't know what you're doing wrong. And it could be as little detail as Peter said, right? Maybe it's the back end qualifying you wrong. Yeah, so let's cover. If you go back to the slide, it could be also an issue that you're recently recently established organization, and you might not be in the systems. You might not be in the local registries. Again, do not despair. There is a chance for you, absolutely. If you're eligible, just have all of the documentations and all of the proofs ready to demonstrate your status, to provide the evidence. It will be a little bit more hassle. You might need to communicate with the Goodstack team, but it's absolutely doable. So new organizations, it's absolutely fine. You're not excluded. And user errors, we'll cover the basic ones, but they could result in a rejection. Again, it does not completely disqualify you. You can resubmit if you realize what the issue was. Okay? And one disclaimer, please, if you keep resending or keep repeating the same mistake, the chances are that it will result in the same outcome. So it's best to understand like what is going wrong, why, what is the root cause of my rejection, and then handle it and fix it accordingly. So let's look into a few practical examples. One, I feel like I've been rejected and there is no apparent reason. Okay, so you think you qualify, I meet my definition, I follow Veronica and Peter's advice, I looked at the criteria and I'm still getting rejected. What is happening? Again, it could be through various reasons. It could be that the registry maybe is not up to date. It could be that you're too new organization. I would suggest that you reach out to the support and have all of the supporting documentation. What is it? In the US, it would be IRS determination letters. Okay, so have all of the proofs that you have the correct status and do not feel obliged to, okay, that's given outcome. Yes, if you have all of the evidence, you can try and communicate, and it can be repealed. Please, if you are just attaching any document and you don't have the right one, if you just have a picture of your pet, that's not helpful at all, right? You might be maybe a back office lady, or you might be just an admin person and you don't have access to the legal and corporate documentation. Please, it's better to pause the application and revisit it with the correct one rather than just apply any screenshots of the landscape, right? Because that brings the legitimacy of your application down. Okay.
Well, what we do if we submit an application for our client, we always first look into the first screen, and when we see the organization within the database, we know that we'll likely not need to submit any legal documentation. We might move forward with the application. But if we don't see it in there, we already know that Goodstack and or Google will ask us for those legal documents, which we do not have. So in those kind of situations, we say to the organization, it'd be better if you submit the application on your own, have those documents ready. They will ask for it, and will be quicker if they communicate directly with you and you provide the documents. That's just one
health,
practical.
absolutely, that's the right way to do it. Please be careful, because there are lots of organizations that have identical names, and yeah, as a goodwill, there could be ton of organization. Churches, very common to have exact identical names, right? Maybe even similar location. So please take your time and try to find, like, is the organization that I'm about to pick from the database, is it the correct one? So have at least EIN ready to make sure that you are selecting the right one, because that could be also immediate rejection. And it might be because you just selected the neighboring office or branch a few states away. Okay, so again, it's a fixable problem, but you will have to resubmit and you would have to communicate with Goodstack what happened and go through the hoops. So it's better to try to do it first time around correctly if possible. Next one, I have been verified for Canva, but I'm rejected for Google. The system, you might be thinking the system is broken, it doesn't work, somewhere is a problem. Maybe not so much. As I described a few moments ago, Google has its own pre-selection criteria, and the eligibility is different from any other corporations like Adobe, like Microsoft and Canva. Okay, so please don't feel like, oh, I got accepted to one Canva and then immediately I'm eligible for all of the other products. The answer is most likely yes. If you're operating in a category that is accepted across the board, yes. but there are some categories that are in a more risky area. We mentioned the schools, hospitals, government. Sometimes the problem could be with like political affiliations. Sometimes it could be with advocacy. Problems can also arise with like a business advisory issues. Peter, do you have any examples of clients that face any issues? I think these are the most common one.
Yeah, you're right. So, I mean, schools, hospitals, and governmental organizations, those are clear, they're clearly problematic areas. They're outlined by Google, but yes, political organizations, different types of legal lawyers and organizations like that. Difficult health organizations. Again, sometimes they're okay, sometimes they're not. What else? We have clients, for instance, in the area of reproductive health and things like that. Those are categories that are sometimes difficult in terms of approval processes. But other than that, I don't really remember any problematic ones
That
outside of
brings me on to also, as Peter said, often the schools, especially in America, in the US, you might have a school that has a nonprofit associated or multiple nonprofits associated with it. It could be the regions of, and that is a nonprofit governing body, okay? And that is a perfectly fine 501c3 that is eligible, okay? And the other example could be the PTA, Parent Teacher Association, which again, it's a parent-teacher association. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily a school. So slight nuance. Again, a hospital might be a no, but there could be a clinic, there could be like a health
Yeah.
advisory, health support that is absolutely fine.
Or patient organizations, things like that. We have clients that do fundraising for patients, and they're raising funds on essentially on the clinic's website, but it's not for the clinic, it's for a certain patient who is a registered nonprofit. So then it is, like I said, sometimes there are very fine lines between those cases. And again, my recommendation is to apply and see. In worst case scenario, you're just not gonna get it, but at least you've tried. One more thing that I wanted to mention here is we also have clients that operate multiple nonprofits, right? So again, coming back to what we said, there might be one health center and they might operate, one nonprofit for educational purposes, another one that organizes events, a third one that raises funds for patients, etc., etc., and they all have the same address, sometimes even one, similar or the same domain. And it's a common question that we get. So, can we apply with all of them? And the answer is yes, you can. If all of them are eligible, if all of them, if you have all the supporting documents for all of them, you should be able to get in with all of them, and then each one can get its own Canva, Google for Nonprofits, Adobe, whatever that is. So yes, you can apply with any legally registered nonprofit that you operate.
One slight caveat there is, again, if you try to apply at the same time for all of them, it might trigger some potentially fraud / suspicious activity triggers, right? So they might think like, oh, somebody hacked into these organizations and they are trying to exploit them. And it might be you, perfectly legitimate, sitting at your computer trying to just apply. So again, it's not denial. It just, please communicate, right? Because again, like imagine in a bank, right? If you have too many transactions happening at the same time, you might get frozen account, right? So similar things apply in this example, because you wouldn't believe, but there are many bad actors trying to exploit the products, right? And then try to utilize it, right? Not all of the people applying have the goodwill and try to serve the community. There are many bad actors. So there are some restrictions built into to help you guys who are legitimate organizations and try to avoid exploitation. So again, any systematic, if you want to do a group application, please go ahead. If you face issues, the best to get in touch. If you're facing more problems, like we can also support, right? But it can be just a matter of too many applications. Secondly, you might want to engage with Peter and say, Peter, can you handle all of the 10 nonprofits? Absolutely, right? But again, a similar issue arises, right? Why is unrelated entity unrelated person applying on behalf of 10 organizations. Again, it can raise compliance or due diligence flags, something that can be handled, but maybe there is an extra bar that needs to be included in the process rather than just a simple one-off application for your own nonprofit. Okay, so just bear that in mind. There are some organizations like Toastmasters that have thousands of organizations. Again, there is a path for these organizations or congregations of churches, but the best to plan for the application in those accounts. Another issue, we were asked for more information, and now nothing is happening. Again, Peter showed you an example.
This is a common one. We looked at Reddit and LinkedIn and other places like that, and this is a very common one. The affiliation problem, that's, I'd say, it's number one, and then it's this one. We've applied and nothing's happening. We don't know. We looked at spam. We looked everywhere. We have no emails from Goodstack. What do we do? This is a good one that we should
I'll cover
more detail.
regardless the simple one. The recommended to avoid this issue in the first place is to use the official email address. That would be kind of to prevent this issue from happening. Well, if you have an authorized email address and you're applying on behalf of Goodwill with a Goodwill corporate email address, you're going to probably skip this one, right? If your organization is brand new and you just have an email, again, there is a possibility to go through with the Gmail as well. However, your email might get flagged and the email might end up in your spam. Please check that in the first example. It could be that you are applying with your corporate email, but your internal server is preventing the emails from receiving. Okay, that is a common one. You don't know what is happening. Goodstack send it, but there is like a firewall preventing from emails to be received. Again, the only way to fix that example would be to reach out to the support. They can check the backend. Has the email been delivered to your address? That is one. Another one is there could be multiple emails coming and requesting. You maybe have checked one, maybe you submitted the documentation they asked for and you think it's a done deal. However, there could be another email asking you to verify your email address. That is a separate step in the process. It's a typical one for any kind of software, or if you sign up for any other processes where you just need to verify. It can easily get missed, but without this, you might submit all of the good documentation, but if you just forget to click that one link, it could be.
I think we had a screenshot of that email. So yeah, it's a tiny email, and it just basically says that verify this email address so that we can continue the communication. If you don't do that, then you will never proceed to the next step. And the same goes to the affiliation email. Just get an email basically saying, we've contacted the owner of this organization to verify that you're affiliated. All right. If you miss it, or if this other person misses it, or if the email address in the Goodstack send the email to, if that person is no longer there, well, obviously nobody's going to verify, right? So there are all sorts of scenarios, and then again, you need to receive multiple emails. Sometimes it's not just you; sometimes it's another person who's verifying the ownership, and these tend to get lost. They might end up in the spam folder. They might get blocked, as Veronica said. All sorts of issues can happen. If they do, Veronica, from your experience, like how fast should this be? Yeah, I know it probably depends on the workload, but like, at which point you should start worrying? Is there a timeline that you can share, maybe?
You should, if there is any follow-up on your application, you will be notified immediately. So we are talking minutes after. The SLA in terms of how long your application takes to be processed, I think that's 72 hours.
Okay.
Google SLA. So
3 days, 3 business days.
Potentially, you could be verified much quicker. So I would say keep an eye on your inbox and what communication comes in straight after your application. If you haven't received anything and it's past 72 hours, then it's maybe a slight cause for concern, and try look into waste your spam folder, start investigating. If it's a week, you haven't heard anything, nothing, then it's definitely cause for concern. You get in touch. You should have received at least a negative response, at least a denial by that point. Okay? If there is something in terms of like a follow-up steps, please, again, if there is one, there could potentially be a separate email. Okay? So this is an important note. Email verification could be separate email from, hey, can you please provide an additional documentation to support your verification.
And these emails might even be they might be even sent from different email addresses, correct? So they might not be like in Google usually stacks up the emails in one thread, but I believe that different emails might be sent from different email addresses, so they might not even be in the same thread. So you should.
They will be probably separate threads. I think there are you will get like a generated email, but they will be in a separate thread. Absolutely. So keep an eye out. Again, there could be an immediate communication request. So keep an eye out from the point of application. 3 days is kind of the window. If a week has gone by, you haven't heard anything, then please engage. If you leave it a month and then you wake up, most likely even the link that you found magically will be expired. Okay? So then at that point, it's already too late to action anything. So I would say after a week, please take immediate like action. Then you can proceed and salvage something. The next one is we send everything and we are still rejecting. So you passed, you got the inquiries, you checked all their emails, you clicked everything, you replied, you gathered all of the documentation, and they still said no. Okay? As we discussed throughout the webinar, there could be many layers, right? Just because you pass the 501c3, just because you are maybe serving the homeless and you don't fall under governmental school and the healthcare, and meaning hospitals, that does not immediately mean like, yes, you're all set, all good. There are other checks that need to be performed, okay? So the IRS form or bylaws or IDs are great, but you just need to make sure that all of the steps are successfully passed, okay? It can sometimes feel like an uphill battle. The best way, again, is to be in the system already, to apply with the email of the government. I understand that for some organizations that are brand new, that do not have a presence in the registry, do not have corporate emails, this is a little bit more difficult, right? But one of the things is the affiliation chain. If you need to prove your role at the organization, if you just submit the IRS forms, that's great. That verifies the status of the organization itself. But some of these, as you know, anyone can get. It does not guarantee that Veronica, for example, works for Red Cross, right? Just because I got hold of their IRS determination letter. You need to have an affiliation. If you don't have a direct affiliation, then as Peter said, you can still apply on behalf and have this agency agreement, right? But then somebody from the organization need to say, yes, I appointed Veronica to apply on my behalf. Yes, this is a legitimate application, okay? And that takes an extra layer of verification. Then an extra person needs to keep an eye on their inbox and confirm all of the. If you keep resending the same documentation and think like, okay, IRS determination saves it all. Unfortunately, yes, for the initial first step, but it will not be sufficient for the later verification steps, okay? If you're thinking what exactly is missing, I would say if you're at a loss, reach out, try to look at the knowledge base. We'll cover some like the basic areas, like how can you self-help yourself. You might be missing something little, but again, reach out. Do not get frustrated. There will be a way to fix the problem.
And we've been submitting many of those applications over the years, and things like this are very common, right? This is not, if this happens, if you get a rejection, it doesn't mean that this is it. You're never gonna get in. No, absolutely not. Again, there might be one document that hasn't been accepted. There might be one email that hasn't been clicked on, right? There might be a tiny little thing that just hasn't clicked, and because of that, that's the status right now. But you can always come back. You can fix this one little thing, and then you may get a different outcome, right? And I know it's easier said than done. We've been there a few times, and sometimes you get the same robotic answers, and it may cause some frustration. And I absolutely get that. But again, if you have all the documents, if you apply through the email address that's actually hosted on the nonprofit's website, just these two things minimize the chance of being rejected so much that you should, if you do all these steps correctly, then you should be approved without any problems, right? My suggestion is do not submit it from a Gmail or any other no-name email host. Don't do that, and don't apply without all the documents ready, right? But if you do these two basic things, it's a relatively simple and quick process. That's at least my experience. I know there are more issues that we'll talk about, but from my experience, affiliation and then missing documents, these are the critical
Absolutely.
parts of the whole process.
There could be, let's just cover the simple failures. You have everything, everything is set, but you had a typo. You had a typo in the email, and you might be wondering why I haven't received anything. Well, maybe you misspelled your email address. Okay? And then you might be wondering why I cannot verify. There is a fix for that. Okay? Maybe you don't realize, if you again not receive anything, it could be the typo, you just resubmit, and it could be as easy. If you have everything ready, it could be as easy. If you selected the wrong organization, again, the best way would be to get to the bottom of that, what is wrong, and then you realize, oh, I selected one in California, I'm based in Miami. Okay, there is a fix for that as well. In terms of the mixed-up documents, this is relatively common for, let's say, churches or organizations that fall under group exemptions. Okay, organizations that are under group structures, they're also eligible, and they can apply. But just make sure that you have relevant documentation. You need to have a confirmation of your organization and your relationship with the parent organization. Okay, if you just submit just the parent organization and you apply under, let's say, Goodwill, Illinois, right? But you provide a paperwork for the headquarters in, let's say, New York, right? That will result in a very simple failure. You might have the supporting evidence that is, yeah, actually the Illinois and New York, well, we are related somehow under a structure, but you please make sure you have that handy, especially for the group structures. Okay, for a simple organization, this might not apply. Just have your simple documents. For the group structures, very important to have that handy to demonstrate your relationship, right? Next one, new organization. Peter said the best way would to have the website, to have your corporate email, and to have everything ready. I know that's an ideal scenario, and not everyone can achieve that. You might not have the online presence that you need to demonstrate that what you are doing, right? And then on the face of it, it might look like, what is this organization? It's not in the registry. I cannot find it anywhere online. Is it a scam? Is it not a scam? Do not despair. That there is definitely, Google acknowledges that, and they do want to help grassroots or new organizations starting out. They do not have any animosity towards new organization. However, it's slightly more difficult. So if the only thing you have is a Gmail, Hotmail, or any open the providers, yes, there is a way for that, but I would encourage you to at least attempt to have some online presence, some connection, to have everything ready as much as you can. Okay, worst case scenario, you have to go through the appeal process, and you just explain, okay, we are new, this is what we have, this is what we are building. Okay, so no worries, but just be ready for the process. And lastly, I slightly touched upon it, churches and group exemptions. This is slightly special category. It's a complicated case often because churches by default, they do not have to have the registrations and they do not have to be in the registry, right? So you might not find yourself in the search, hence why it might take few steps and extra steps to demonstrate that you are actually a church. And we acknowledge that. Goodstack and Google absolutely want to support churches and a group exemption. However, you might need to provide an extra evidence what your legal name is, what your registration number is. So you need to have at least your state evidence and state registration, right? Which is slightly different to your typical nonprofit that is just helping maybe the underprivileged kids, right? If you are a church and you are not in any of the registries, yes, it's understood that you have an exemption and you don't have to have a standard registration. However, we need to verify that your legal entity is right. Why is that? I know it can be frustrating because you feel like I'm eligible. Why would I have to do any of it? Just again, to weed out all of the bad actors. Okay? So please take few extra steps. Just prove that you're registered locally. Provide your local registration ID. And it helps tremendously. Okay? There is no trying to make it more difficult for the churches or group exemptions, okay? There is a pathway for that. And for the group exemptions, we just covered that. Again, have a supporting group exemption letter that connects the parent and subordinate organizations, okay? And just select the right church. That is very, very important, okay? Very easy mistake.
If I may just add to that, because we work with multiple churches on the Google Agent side, and they work very well. Churches, generally speaking, there's a high search volume for related keywords. Keywords are not very competitive, so it tends to work very well. Yes, the application process might be a little bit more difficult because of this non-standard registration. So yes, take your time. Discuss it with Goodstack and Google if needed. But once you get in, again, the benefits will very quickly outweigh all the suffering that you might experience during the application. Okay.
That concludes all the issues, and I would say for a majority of the nonprofit organizations, this will be a seamless process. So we are hopefully talking to the 1% that are experiencing issues, but for majority, it should be just a matter of a couple of clicks and you get a positive reply. And if that's not the case, we have some troubleshooting kit. So best way is to tap into the knowledge base on a Goodstack help.goodstack.org. You can maybe self-serve, you can maybe find an answer and without having to wait for support to get back to you. So please utilize that. If you're not finding the answer you need, there is a chat bot, so please utilize that. Or if you're still not getting across and you have a complicated case, you're newly established or a church, please reach out to the relevant email address on the screen. So there is a solution. I know it can be a painful process, but again, for hopefully majority of you, everything is fixable, everything can be solved.
There is actually another point, number 4, which you don't have here, but me and Veronica, we've fixed many of these problematic issues. I remember those group exempt organizations that we've had as a client, and their addresses were messed up in the system, the affiliation problems. I mean, all the issues that we've talked about here are the issues that Veronica definitely experienced throughout her career. And because of that, when you tell us what your problem is, we typically already seen it before. We know what to do. We know how we've solved it. We know who to talk to. And you can reach out to us. My email address will be also mentioned on this webinar. And I'll be happy to connect you with Veronica if needed, and we can look at it together and we can help you fix these issues if you aren't able to find the answer yourself. All right, get help, and that's actually what the next slide is about. I've already mentioned that we primarily help organizations get into the Google Ad Grants program, and once they get in, we help them set up campaigns in the most efficient manner. We help them use the grant to the maximum possible extent. We only work with nonprofits. We can help you with the Goodstack verification, as I've already mentioned. We can also help you with the follow-up steps like the Google for Nonprofits activation and Google AdGrants activation. We can troubleshoot your application with Google and Goodstack support. We work directly with the Google AdGrants team, which also speeds up the process. Veronica works with the Goodstack team, so these are the things that might help greatly. Yeah, and once you get in, it's up to you which products you choose, right? We specialize in Google AdGrants. We believe this is the most valuable of Google for Nonprofits programs. But just within Google for Nonprofits, there's a YouTube program, there's Google Workspace program, there are other suites and products available. Plus, if you do the application through Goodstack, you can apply for other software packages, some of which we've mentioned in the beginning, and there are much more benefits that unfortunately many nonprofits don't even know about. At least that's my experience when I'm talking to nonprofits. So again, I would like to encourage you to explore all the options within Google for Nonprofits and Goodstack. If you're having problems with the Goodstack application, try to follow the steps that we've talked about on today's webinar. If you can't fix it yourself or through Goodstack, reach out to Goodstack or reach out to us. We'll be happy to help you with those things, and hopefully you'll be able to get in and you'll be able to enjoy all these benefits. The last slide that I have here today is the summary of the things that we've talked about today. So just very quickly, for those of you who are not familiar, again, Goodstack is a free platform for nonprofits that stacks innovative fundraising and technology products under one platform. Obviously, you need to apply for Goodstack, and we've talked about the application process as well. Goodstack is also a validation partner for Google for Nonprofits. So, if you're new to this, if you're just applying for Google for Nonprofits, you will need to pass Goodstack's validation. The application problems are relatively common, but they're not very serious usually, right? Usually, again, it's just a missing document. It might be a typo in an email. It might be an incorrect email. It might be an email that's a Gmail, but not a corporate email. These are the most common problems, right? They can be, usually you should be able to fix them by yourself. For more serious cases, you can always reach out to Google Goodstack support, or you can reach out to us and we should be able to help. To speed up the process as much as possible, again, double check that all the documents are valid. Double check the application itself before you submit it. Make sure there are no email typos or any problems like that. And yeah, that's about it. Again, there is support, and you can access it through Goodstack itself, through email, through their help center, through AI chatbot, or you can reach out to us. I don't think we have any questions. We can skip this one. Again, I would like to thank you for your attention. You have my email address here. I will be happy to connect you with Veronica if that's needed. Maybe one last thing here. This webinar has been recorded. It will be available on our YouTube channel, so you can then look at it, stop it anywhere you want, and look at it at your own pace. That's everything I had. So I would again like to thank you for your. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Veronica for attendance and for shedding some light on these common issues and for sharing her knowledge. I really appreciate that. Thank you for being here with us. And I would like to thank you for attending. Thank you for your time, and hopefully you'll find this beneficial, and hopefully you'll be able to get in and enjoy Goodstack to the fullest. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me, and just go ahead and apply. There is a wealth of solutions or money to be grabbed by nonprofits. So go ahead, try to explore.
Thank you again. Have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.